You are walking alone along the edge of the forest as the light fades. A twig snaps behind you. You don't think. You run. For the vast majority of human history, this was not a scary campfire story. It was a Tuesday. For roughly 2 million years, your ancestors were not the masters of the natural world. They were not the apex predators. They were the appetizers. We like to imagine that humans have always dominated this planet, but the fossil record tells a different, more terrifying story. And it starts in a cave in South Africa. The cave is called Swartkrans. In the 1970s, paleontologist Robert Brain was digging through layers of ancient bone there. He kept finding the fossilized skulls of an early human relative, Paranthropus robustus. Paranthropus robustus was not small. It was a robust, heavily built hominin with a powerful jaw for chewing tough plants. But Brain noticed something deeply unsettling.
Two neat circular punctures in the top of one skull. Then another. Then another. He measured the spacing between the holes. They lined up exactly with the lower canine teeth of a leopard. A leopard had killed this hominin, dragged it into a tree, and feasted. And it was not a one-time event. Swartkrans was a bone pile, a leopard's dining room that operated for thousands of years. We were prey. And it was not just leopards. Travel 4,500 miles north to the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains in modern-day Georgia. There lies the site of Dmanisi. 1. 8 million years ago, a small group of Homo erectus wandered into this river valley. They were among the very first humans to leave Africa. One of them never left. Paleoanthropologist David Lorkipanidze and his team unearthed a skull there that bears the unmistakable signature of a saber-toothed cat. The puncture wounds are massive, deep, crushing holes that fit the huge, flattened canine teeth of a predator that was built like a bear with steak knives in its mouth. A saber-toothed cat is one of those Ice Age monsters that seems fictional. 7-inch fangs designed to pierce the windpipe of a fleeing hominin. A single ambush, and the bold march out of Africa ended in a bloody heap. The world your ancestors stepped into was a predator's paradise. There were giant hyenas, Pachyrhinoceros, standing 4 feet tall at the shoulder and capable of crushing elephant bones like crackers. There were crocodiles so large, Thorbjarnarsson's crocodile, that they made today's Nile crocodile look like a pet lizard. There were giant eagles, like the Haast's eagle of New Zealand, which hunted the 400-pound moa and likely did not discriminate against a wandering child. How did a slow, clawless, fangless, thin-skinned ape survive in this nightmare landscape?
The answer did not come down to a single magic weapon. It came down to 3 evolutionary superpowers that, when combined, made us the most dangerous prey on the planet. The first was the fire. Evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa suggests your ancestors were controlling fire as far back as 1 million years ago. Fire was not just for cooking. It was a portable wall of light that pushed back the darkness. A predator's one advantage is surprise. A leopard does not want a fair fight. It wants to pounce from a bush and close its jaws around your throat before you even know it is there. Fire ruins that plan. A ring of flames illuminates the night, turning the tables. The dark becomes the predator's enemy because it can no longer hide in it. And when a torch was thrust into a saber-toothed cat's face, that 7-inch fang was suddenly meaningless. The second superpower was the arm. Not the fist, the throw. Chimpanzees can throw things. A chimp in a rage might fling a rock or a handful of feces in your general direction. It is slow. It is clumsy. It is almost impossible for a chimp to throw anything with any speed or accuracy. You, on the other hand, are an evolutionary accident of ballistic genius. Researcher Neil Roach at Harvard studied the biomechanics of the human shoulder. He discovered that our shoulders are not just joints, they are catapults. The ligaments and tendons in our arms store elastic energy as we wind up, cocking the arm back like a medieval trebuchet. At the moment of release, that energy is unleashed, hurling a rock at speeds no other primate can match. A troop of Homo erectus did not have to wrestle a saber-toothed cat. They could stay 30 feet away and bombard it with heavy, sharp stones. One well-aimed strike to the snout or the ribs was enough to convince a predator that this particular meal was not worth the concussion. And the third superpower, the one that stitched everything else together, was language. We do not often think of words as a weapon, but a whisper in the dark, behind you, is the difference between life and a mouthful of incisors. Anthropologist Robert Sussman's work on the man-the-hunted theory showed that early hominins were not built for solitary heroism. We survived in numbers. A sentinel on a rock, a mother with a child on her back, a hunter holding a spear, all of them connected by a complex web of sounds, warnings, and plans. Let's reconstruct a night to see how these three things work together. It is 1.5 million years ago on the open savanna. The sky is a deep indigo, punctured by a spray of cold stars. A small band of Homo erectus has built a fire from dry acacia branches. The red embers float up and vanish into the black. In the circle of light, you see faces, white sclera gleaming in the firelight, eyes that communicate every shift in emotion without a word. A grandmother rubs a stick against a stone, feeling for an edge. A hunter sharpens a wooden spear by charring the tip in the embers. Just outside the circle of light, the grass rustles. A low, heavy rustle. A massive, short-faced hyena, a beast larger than any modern lion, is circling. Its yellow eyes reflect the fire. One of your ancestors spots it. Her eyes widen. She makes a noise, a sharp, guttural click. Immediately the others turn. A young man stands. He reaches down, picks up a rounded cobble. He cocks his arm back, the elastic wind-up, and launches it into the dark. A wet thud, a yelp of pain. Suddenly the whole troop is on its feet. Torches are snatched from the fire. People scream, hurl rocks, wave burning branches. The hyena skitters back into the dark, outnumbered and confused. The superpowers did not just save lives, they changed the very course of our evolution. But here is the counterintuitive twist. The predators that hunted your ancestors were not just an obstacle, they were a catalyst. The constant grinding pressure of being stalked forced our brains to expand, our bonds to tighten, and our fears to become systemic. Fear was not a weakness to be suppressed. It was a signal processing system that sharpened our senses and kept us alive. Without the leopard at the cave mouth, there is no reason for Homo erectus to stretch a hide across the entrance. Without the giant hyena, there is no reason to build the fire high. Without the threat of sudden, violent death in the tall grass, there is no reason for your brain to become so exquisitely sensitive to ambiguous patterns in the shadows. The monsters under the bed are the reason you can read this sentence, and that ancient fear never left you. It is why you still feel a chill when a floorboard creaks in an empty house. It is why your heart hammers when you hear a sudden rustle in the bushes during a quiet walk. It is why, even in the safest, most climate-controlled, predator-proof era of human history,
You are still, deep in your brainstem, a hairless ape listening for the snap of a twig. You are walking alone along the edge of the forest as the light fades. A twig snaps behind you. You don't think. You run. And now, you know exactly why.